I'm really curious on if gaining a mathematical grounding in some aspects of consciousness has informed if you think about it as materialism or idealism. Like, does it push you in a consciousness's fundamental direction, or does it
Yeah.
push you in a consciousness is produced by biological systems direction?
I,
Where
yeah, I love this question. I think that, so for a long time, I wanted to write a paper where I would take the various metaphysical assumptions and then try to analyze and, put forward constraints these assumptions give on the mathematics of theories of consciousness. And then at some points, I, at least for now, came to the conviction that there are none. You look at theories like integrated information theory. It's supposed to be an idealist theory. It has all of these assumptions which break fundamentally with physicalism. But then you look at the math, and the math is literally just the same math that any physicalist theory could put forward.
Interesting. You answered a
And
question I have. I have three questions down. That's super interesting.
yeah, and I think the same is true for many other theories. So I think that metaphysics are still extremely important for us as researchers because they will motivate how we ask and what we want to do. But at present, at least, I would argue that whenever a theory comes along, it's entirely your choice whether you interpret that theory as purely physical, purely idealist, something in between, dual aspect. It's to a certain extent at the level of discussion we have right now, but I also think this is a temporary phenomenon. We're going to see changes in paradigms in metaphysics. But at the level of discussion we have right now, metaphysics is a game where you point essentially to what variables are in your theories, and then you say, this is a physical variable, and this is a non-physical variable. And what I'm trying to say in a certain sense is that I think that consciousness science, as of now, will not tell you which metaphysical picture is correct.
Yes.
But consciousness science will be heavily influenced by what researchers think is the right metaphysical picture. I do think metaphysics is very important, but I think at the present time, it's a game sort of you play in philosophy. You have to sort of find metaphysical answers by using philosophy in a metaphysical context. And as a science, we can probably not help you so much.
Interesting. It's interesting to me that I didn't hear necessarily that it did nudge you in either direction, that the maths kind of works in both cases. So there isn't any signals in the mathematical equations, formalisms that are, say, overtly or even gives a reasonable intuition that, okay, this seems more physicalist, this seems more fundamentalist or idealist. Do you lean in any camp, or are you agnostic? You
I'm
offense?
very, I'm not proud of many things, but I'm very proud that I still to this day managed to be ontologically neutral. I mean, if you're gonna put a barrel to my face, and force me to pick one, I'm gonna pick one. But at present, I could imagine all of them, to be true. I mean, individually, not at the same time. I think there are very good reasons for why physicalism might hold. I think there are extremely good reasons for why physicalism might be a mistake. But there are also very good reasons for why idealism might not be the solution. And then there are good reasons for why idealism might be true. And to a certain extent, sometimes I'm tempted to think, you know, this is really necessary for me, at least, to do good research. I want to be, this consciousness science is about letting nature tell us what is the case. It's about empirical evidence. It's about a scientific approach is an approach that tries to avoid unnecessary assumptions as much as we can. So we
Yes.
want to do things where we can let nature find out what, or tell us at least what is the case. And I think, of course, if we're strongly leaning towards one direction, we're probably going to interpret everything nature says in this direction.
Yeah, it's a good
So
point.
yeah.
You mentioned integrated information theory there.
Mhm.
Maybe it's worth going back just defining
Mhm.
that in as simple terms as possible so
Mhm.
that everyone can understand that idea.
Mhm. So integrated information theory is one of the leading theories of consciousness, I would say. It's among the 6 or so everyone in the field looks at in their education. There are many more. It's very hard to really give a summary of integrated information theory that's not already basically false. It's like the theory is, I would say the important things to keep in mind is the theory has 2 parts. It has a metaphysical or conceptual part, which most people who like the theory fall in love with. This part was created by Giulio Tononi in the beginning, or like is still being refined. This is the part of the theory where, where the theory says experience is fundamental. Experience is only experience exists. Physical is something derived in experience. This part of the theory. But then there's a second part of the theory, and that's the part of the theory that's actually being discussed and criticized and improved in the field. And this is sort of a mathematical part. It's a mathematical algorithm, if you like, a mathematical mapping that takes a formal description of any physical system as input. So the physical system could be the brain or could be, your thermostat. And then it gives you, as a result, three things you typically want to know about conscious experience. It gives you a number that's supposed to say how conscious the system is. It gives you a mathematical structure that's supposed to tell you what the experience of the system is. And it gives you a place, a subset of the system, which is supposed to be to say where in the system the experience is. So in the brain, for example, it would ideally, that's what they're hoping to, or there's certain arguments that tell you that it would give you the back of the brain. And it would tell you that's where the experience sits. And yeah. And now, sorry, yeah.
No, I was going to say I really liked some aspects of IIT, and you're right that over all of the conversations I've had, so most consciousness researchers seem to like some aspects of it and not like others. You will get materialists that like this idea that integrated information just is consciousness. That's what it is. I think I have a tendency to like that idea that just that's what consciousness is. It doesn't necessarily like I think it gets around the hard problem to some extent. It gets past dualism that matter creates consciousness. It's just that it's not that matter creates consciousness, is that integrated matter is consciousness. I like that. I was speaking to David Papineau, and I think he created a nice argument for that. But then I kind of fall down at always my bias being towards materialism. I fall down at this fact that IIT does give some consciousness to a thermostat. And I'm like, come on. Can it not just do the cool material stuff and not give experience to a thermostat? Even though I'm definitely less dogmatic about my material views than I used to be, speaking to people like you and Dr. Robert Prentner, who I think you're familiar with. These people, I definitely don't understand their ideas fully, but I can't be so dogmatic on it.
Yeah. So yeah, sorry. Like, is there a specific question you'd like me to answer in this context?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. I'm happy to tell you what I think. Yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe talk about how you have formalized some maths behind IIT. Like, how have you taken that as a set of ideas and built some maths around it?
Yeah, so basically, the work I did personally on IIT is, so IIT, as you know, is defined in terms of these formula. Like, sometimes in German we have this word Mikado. I think other languages have it too. I'm not sure what the English word is right now. It's this game where you have all of these sticks and they're like all intertwined and for kids, and you have to pull them out without wiggling.
What's it called? I don't know.
This is my intuition about the formula for IIT, the formula plural. So we have many, and they're just put together in this way. And so the work that I did with my friend and colleague Sean Tull was we wanted to basically play this game of Mikado with IIT, take them apart slowly and really understand what is the actual structure that they're discussing. What is the mathematical structure? From the outside, that's often very, why do you do this? People don't understand. This is really sort of a typical activity that, for example, a mathematical physicist would do. It is in the category of cleaning up after other people, which usually doesn't get much excitement, but we did it because we believed that it could help the further development of the theory. And I should say, like, I really understand, I fully understand, on the one hand, the excitement, and on the other hand, the criticism. And when we did this work and we really disentangled for 3.x, which is the version of the theory that was proposed first in the 3.0 paper and then refined in 15 to 20 papers before the 4.0 version came out just last year. So for this 3.x version, when we did this math, on the one hand, we discovered, or we were able to see clearly, absolutely ingenious ideas. There are some things which everyone in the field will be doing at some point. For example, this relates to another part of my research, but for example, this idea of using structure or spaces to represent conscious experience. It's absolutely ingenious. And of course, IIT wasn't strictly speaking the first theory, but Giulio Tononi was one of the first people, if not the first person in consciousness science who really started to, build theories with this thought in mind. And there are a couple of other things that are really revolutionary. But there are also things in the mathematics where you would say, I mean, they turn the theory basically wrong in its current state, which is not such a, it's not a devastating problem because the math is being further developed, it's being refined. But there are fundamental issues that brought me, at least, to think that, we'd have to restart doing the math of IIT again. In a certain sense, IIT was formulated in the paradigm that we had in consciousness science in the 2000s. And this paradigm is just not conducive to idealist theories. And there are certain things within the theory that, within the math, that like fundamental things that kind of, from a mathematical perspective, you would say they went wrong. And we know how to fix this, but we'd have to do the math again. So this is just to say, so I have these two, souls in me. On the one hand, it's an ingenious move. On the other hand, it can't be true as it's written right now, or even if as it's written in 4.0. And so I do understand very much this, if I understood correctly what you said, this being, this tension between liking and disliking.
Inner tension, yeah, absolutely.
Inner tension, exactly.
Giant news. We created a completely free ebook titled 26 Neuroscience Books for 2026. I've read over 100 neuroscience books in my life, and with Christmas just around the corner, I thought I would help people find the perfect book for them or to buy for someone in their life. It includes really nice science-based illustrations, an accessibility guide, and personally written segments for each book and the impression they left on me. I also asked 100 top scientists like Dr. Mike Levin, Anil Seth, Nick Lane, and many more what their favorite science book is, and you can find all of those included at the end. If you want to support the channel, you can also purchase a beautiful physical paperback copy, also a perfect stocking filler. We put a lot of effort into our first giant shoulder product, and we cannot wait to hear your thoughts. Check it out in the link below. Again, it's completely free.